Now, understanding the importance that self-esteem and self-confidence plays in developing of our people is critical to our success as leaders, and it's a fundamental truth of outstanding leadership. Right now, there are more than 275 studies that have been done in this exact subject. Now, each of these studies has shown a direct correlation between the strength and integrity of an individual's self-esteem and self-confidence and their achievements in life. These studies have demonstrated that this correlation from the earliest stages of adolescence all the way through to someone's adulthood. They've shown that there's a direct correlation in every pocket of an individual's lives, both personally and professionally. In other words, an individual who has proper self-esteem and self-confidence regarding their personal finances will build more stable financial lives. An individual with proper self-esteem and self-confidence regarding their physical health will remain in better physical health. An individual with proper self-esteem and self-confidence regarding relationships will build better relationships in life. This is true because self-esteem and self-confidence are the core beliefs that we hold about ourselves and of our own potential in life. Now together, we now understand that our dominant thoughts and our dominant beliefs always drive our actions, and the actions that we take always dictate the outcomes or results that we will get in life, right? As we journey through life. So we've already clarified that. Our thoughts and beliefs drive our actions, and our actions dictate our results. It's all cause and effect. Hence, our self-esteem and self-confidence are our dominant thoughts and beliefs that we hold about ourselves and of others. Now, in essence, our self-esteem and self-confidence are the governors, the regulators, the shadow warrior, if you will, that operate in the back of a person's mind. They regulate how high they will let themselves rise or how much they will allow themselves to achieve in life. What we don't even realise that our dominant thoughts and beliefs are actually controlling us every single day. So where does it come from? How is our self-esteem and self-confidence actually formed? This is our real kicker. Well, here's what the science tells us. The bulk of an individual's self-esteem and self-confidence, somewhere in the order of around 80%, will primarily be put in place for us between the ages of 2 and 7. Yes, from the ages of 2 and 7, really. Now, that's a little staggering to actually think about. I mean, here we have these core beliefs that literally, we hold about ourselves and our own capabilities, and they're primarily put in place between the ages of 2 and 7, and we have no say in the matter. What literally forms the foundations of our later self-esteem and self-confidence is established between the ages of 2 and 7, such an early age. Now the question is this: who do you think plays the most significant role in influencing us at this really young age? You're absolutely right. It's our parents, those well-meaning adults who are around us when we're just little kids. They will play the most significant role in shaping our self-esteem and self-confidence. So about 80% of who we are is laid in place between that age of 2 and 7 years old. Now the other 20%, that will primarily be influenced by our peer groups when we're in our teen years. So basically, by the time someone is 18 years old, our self-esteem and self-confidence, The foundation of our later lives will be primarily formed at this really young age. And it will remain this way for the most part of our lives, being a constant, but for the influence of somebody just like you here today. A conscious, competent leader who understands how to help people build their self-esteem and self-confidence. Someone like you who can help build them up rather than knock them down, showing a willingness to genuinely invest your time to support them in their growth in your business or in your team. So how does your self-confidence and self-esteem, how does it actually get formed? How does that critical foundation that is laid in place in that age 2 to 7 window? You know, every child who comes into this world has this fantastic supercomputer that floats between their ears. Now, on the day that we are born, this wonderful supercomputer, or the human mind, well, it has very limited software. It has just enough software that helps us keep us alive, and that's kinda about it. But as we start to develop, we quickly start developing a new software program for the mind. Now, around the age of 2, children start to evolve from a psychological perspective, where they start to begin to ask themselves, like, who am I? How do I relate to this vast world around me? All these adults that are around me. We start to look at our parents and our siblings to try and help answer those questions that are going on in our tiny minds. Now, one of the most important things a parent will teach a child within this 2 to 7 year old window is how to interpret feedback that will get us through our remainder of our lives. Now, we discussed this earlier in the programme. Now, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. As we are growing up, we get feedback from the actions we take and the things that we do. How our parents act or react to those actions that we take at a young age, the feedback that they give us within this critical window of time, well, it actually teaches our children how they should be filing or framing this feedback. Now let me give you an example. I want to tell you a story about Billy and Sally to really help us understand how this feedback is filed in our minds. So first we have Billy. So here's Billy. He is right in this transformative age. Let's say he's 4 years old. And Billy is sitting at the dinner table one evening with all his family around about. And everybody's talking, and Billy reaches out to go and grab his glass of milk. But as we know, young kids in this early stage, well, we don't always have, the greatest motor skills just at this age. So, we're still trying to fine tune these things, and we're not always paying a lot of attention. So anyway, so here's Billy. Billy reaches out to grab his glass of milk, but he misjudges it and he accidentally knocks it over and his milk spills on the table. Now Billy's mum, well, she sees Billy's just knocked the milk over and he's spilt the milk, and she says, "Oh, Billy, you're so clumsy. Sometimes I wonder about you. You're constantly knocking things over. You're such an awkward boy, Billy. You're always knocking things over. You're so clumsy." Now Billy's mum gets some kitchen paper and she cleans up the milk and she moves the glass of milk away from Billy and tells Billy, "You're so clumsy, Billy." Now, you can probably see how exchanges like this happen daily in households worldwide. And I want to examine this from a psychological perspective. So here's Billy. He's taken an action, right? So he's tried to pick up the milk, and for every action there's an equal and there's an opposite in reaction. Now in this case, Billy's reaction was an adverse or negative one, because guess what? He spilt the milk. What Billy's mum inadvertently did by saying, "Oh, you're so clumsy, Billy, you're always knocking things over," is she took that reaction and she attached it to Billy's sense of self-worth. So now Billy is starting to get conditioned to see that if he does things that go wrong, if he makes a mistake, it means that there's something wrong with him. Mistakes are not okay. Billy starts to attach this feedback to sense of self-worth and self-esteem. He starts to believe that mistakes are not okay. Yeah. Now, I want the same scenario and I want to form it slightly different. So let's talk about Sally. So Sally is exactly the same age. She's 4 years old. She's sitting at the dinner table with her family at dinner and she's going to reach out and grab her glass of milk. So Sally, she knocks the milk over and it spills all over the table. Her mum or dad, they see that they spilt milk and they say, "Oh, Sally, oh, you've spilt your milk. Listen, it's okay, honey. Let's do this, right? Let's get some kitchen roll and we'll clean it up. In fact, why don't you help Mummy clean it up and we'll do it together, Sally?" Sally's mum says, "Mistakes are okay, honey, because that's how we learn. What we'll do is we'll put your milk over here and we'll move it out the way a little bit and we'll put it back a little bit further so it's kind of out of your range, just in case we knock it over again." Now think about this. Sally is now being conditioned to see that if I do something and I make a mistake, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with me. It just means that I learn from it. I adjust, I adapt, and I keep moving forward. Now, I understand that these are pretty simplified scenarios, but I want you to see that this is one of the most critical things that we can understand in our conversation. I want you to see how, with the consistency, the congruency, the compounding effect of those kind of exchanges and interactions and the messages that we're sending to the subconscious mind, a child literally gets branded with regards to how they learn to interpret that feedback. They will go throughout life with this vast ripple effect for literally the balance of their lifetime. Now I want to do this. I want to fast forward 20 years from Billy and Sally being 4 years old. Now we've got Billy and we've got Sally. Now they're both coming out of college and they're both coming to work for you. They're starting in exactly the same job on exactly the same day. So I want to think about this just for a second. In the earliest phases of their new job, on those first few weeks and months of starting this new position, are they likely to, they're going through this steepest part of the learning curve. As we go through this learning curve, do you think we're going to tend to make more mistakes or will we make fewer mistakes? Yeah, we're typically going to make more mistakes because, we're just learning. We're in those early parts of the learning curve. So here's Billy. Billy's in the early phases of his new job. He's in the steepest part of the learning curve and he's making all those early mistakes. And because of that, he's getting all this negative feedback. Now remember, Billy has been hardwired to respond in one of two ways. As he starts to make those mistakes, well, this is what Billy will do. Billy will either beat himself up and say things like, "Oh man, what an idiot I am. I'm not meant to do this. This is not the right career path for me." He will either beat himself up or he will attempt not to beat himself up. This is what he'll do. He'll look to place blame. He will say things like, "This company, they're all screwed up and the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing and they didn't train me on this. This business, this organisation, it's a total mess. I don't know why I decided to come on board with this company." Billy will beat or Billy will blame because he's been conditioned to respond when he gets negative feedback. Now, think about this for a second. how will that impact Billy as he's moving through those early phases of his new job? Do you think he'll tend to be more open-minded, or do you think he'll be more closed-minded? Absolutely right. Billy's going to tend to be much more closed-minded. Do you think that Billy is going to want to take more risks, or do you think Billy will take less risks? Absolutely. He's going to take much less risks, much less risk averse, because he's got this thing, this beater of blame growing in his head. Billy will try to stay within his comfort zones. He will avoid situations where he could make a mistake or potentially get that negative feedback. Now, we all understand how the human mind works, and it needs feedback to develop high-level plans for our success. It needs those missing jigsaw pieces. And because Billy avoids situations where he could potentially get negative feedback, he is literally robbing his subconscious mind of the critical feedback that it needs to create a high-level plan for his success within his role. He's literally short-circuiting his own success mechanism. So at the very best, Billy is going to become a mediocre level employee. Now, let's think about the flip side of this story. So Sally, she starts on the same job, on the same day, she goes through the exact same learning curve, and she will make potentially the same mistakes. Still, rather than Sally beating herself up or looking to place blame, well, she will respond very differently, because Sally will do, when she makes mistakes, what she will do, she will ask herself, okay, well, what did I actually do to screw that up? How can I do it different next time? And potentially she'll go look for who's the best person in the team, can help me avoid doing that next time. Sally will say things like, I should spend more time with this person, or I should spend more time with that person and learn to do it a different way. She might think to herself, I'd like to know more. I wonder if there's a course or a class that I can learn more about this particular subject, so that I can learn to do my job better. So rather than beating herself up and placing blame, Sally learns, she adjusts, and she adapts. So you tell me, who will always be the better employee? Will it be Billy, or will it be Sally? It will be Sally 100% of the time, as it's all rooted in that person's self-esteem and self-confidence. Helping people to build self-esteem and self-confidence within your people is the single most important thing that we can understand as leaders, and one of the most critical aspects that we can influence if we genuinely commit to increasing the performance levels of our team. Your thoughts create your actions, and your actions dictate your results in life. So next time you see that person who's always struggling, who's always pushing back, who's always hiding in the background, just remember this. By taking the time to sit down and have a chat and ask really great questions, taking the time to genuinely invest in them, you may just be saving their lives, literally.